Hi, my name's Stephanie Alvis, and I am a 7th grade collaborative specialist, which is a co-teacher at Bourbonnais Upper Grade Center. And I have had the joy of having Caitlin do some observation hours and some lessons with me this school year.
All right, so our first question, talking about how you're a collaborative teacher. So who are people that you typically collab with daily, and what role do they play in your day-to-day teaching life?
So obviously I collaborate with the co-teachers because I go into 2 language arts classes, 2 math classes. So I make sure that I address any activities that might be coming up in their classroom. Obviously the lesson plans, we meet once a week. So that's very important. We continuously discuss the subject matters and how I'm going to help assist teach and what our role is going to be, I guess, for the day or for the week, different assignments, and also any behavior concerns that have happened earlier in that day or throughout the week. And the communication just has to continuously be ongoing.
Yeah, and a follow-up question. So how do you plan for that? Like when do you find time to plan?
So from 3 to 3:35 every day, we have time after school to meet with anybody we need to meet with. Mm-hmm. So we have PLCs, so we have communities, learning communities. So every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, all of us on our team, Team Gold, meet and discuss different topics, things that are going on with the kids, making sure that our community as Team Gold is working well, and obviously communicating from class to class. And then on Tuesdays, I meet with just the math department so I can plan, know what's happening. So the 7th grade Gold and the 7th grade Black meet, and I join them, and so does the Team Black co-teacher. And then we're able to differentiate the lessons or come to a better agreement. Our curriculum is really good for math because it breaks them down into groups, how they're performing. And then language arts, I meet with them on Thursdays, and then we talk about what's happening and such.
Great. Yep. Right. The next question is, what made you pick special education out of everything?
I honestly don't know. My mom was always a teacher, and so I was always exposed to the classroom environment and her doing lesson plans and grading papers, and it just was the coolest thing ever. So I followed her footsteps, got my undergrad degree in early childhood development, and then I went ahead and went straight into my master's and got my special ed degree. I think it just kind of transpired because I was offered a position that was an early childhood classroom, but it was a special ed room. So working for the Kankakee Area Co-op, I was able to have my master's paid for. So it was a huge influence, but once I started really understanding what the job entailed, I was so eager to learn. It was an autism classroom and they were completely nonverbal. So with starting that master's degree, obviously I got it in special ed, so I could take this job and learn so much more.
Yeah. Would you recommend getting your master's degree as a teacher?
I would. And my recommendation is to do it right away, because sometimes people, after going to school, 12, 13 years if you go to preschool or whatever, and then you have your 4 or 5 years in college, depending on how fast you are, whatever, pacing wise. I feel like some people get burnt out of that, and then you are like, oh, I'll do it later, and you don't go back.
Yeah.
And the knowledge is fresh, and you can continue expanding on it if you go right away.
Yes. Okay. Right. The next question is, how do you prevent burnout in yourself?
So just a little personal information, which I think you already know about me. I am a single mom, so the burnout rate was, and stress was even greater. I had 2 young kids, and I was trying to finish my master's degree. Once I got that, just continuing on. The burnout at school, there was a lot of rough days at the beginning because I was trying to figure out where my place was at home, balancing that with school. So definitely having a family and starting a new career is always challenging for anyone. But just making sure that once you're in the classroom, regrouping every day is a new day. A lot of teachers kind of carry, not a lot, some teachers carry, if a kid does something bad, they hold a grudge, or, not intentionally, but they do. And every day has to be a new day. And some of these children that are more challenging, it has to be period by period. And you've seen that with the group that we're with this year. But yeah, just picking your battles, I think, is a huge thing that's going to prevent burnout, because if you're constantly nitpicking, it's just going to drive you crazy and it's going to cause more issues. Having that bond and really letting the kids know who you are as a human is going to make you feel more comfortable and them more comfortable, and they're going to want to work harder. So then that also helps with that burnout.
Yeah.
Definitely being able to ask your coworkers for help. Asking for help is like something I never did, and I had to start. You learn it over time. Definitely from your admin. Being able to tell your admin, hey, I need help with this because I'm struggling or I'm not confident, is a strength, not a weakness. And a lot of people think oppositely, like you're gonna, or opposite way, you think you're gonna get in trouble because you're telling your admin you can't do something. Taking mental health days. Those are obviously now more available and ready for us, but just being able to regroup. Sometimes you just need to take that day off out of the classroom and reset yourself.
Yeah, I like that you said that, because in a lot of our classes they talk about reaching out for help and having like a mentor your first year. So
Our school district does require you to have a 2-year mentor program.
Okay.
I don't think it's state of Illinois, but I've done a lot of mentoring. And one particular person that I did mentor, she was burnt out before she even began teaching. So then being thrown into a stressful situation, the mentoring wasn't enough to help her because there was so much getting the job. So just being in a good, positive, comfortable spot for yourself and then accepting and moving on. Is great.
All right. The next question is, what is the most challenging part of special education?
It depends the year. It depends the group of students. I think COVID had some to do with it, but the group of students that are placed together this year has been my most challenging year out of 23 years of teaching. It's just been a wild year. Like there's not been a year like it. There are too many kids that are strong-willed, lazy, rude, disrespectful, and the biggest thing is not having parental support. The society now that I'm dealing with and have to become more comfortable with and more knowledgeable about is the gender identity, negative self-esteem kind of stuff. Just trying to work with that mental health component, plus being a teacher, plus them having deficits has been very challenging. And you've got to experience some of that and given some thoughts and guidance and help for me as well. So it's been just challenging being able to be productive, even though they're groupie and they, feed off of each other. And sometimes it's just a snowball effect that you just have to take a deep breath and step back. Before this year, I would say the most challenging, just in general, knowing that a kid has potential and they're not living up to it. I just had this realization again this week. It's happened many times this week, but I'm giving more effort than some of the students. So then I have to stand back and reevaluate and know that I'm not a bad teacher. It's not internally motivating for them to do well and to be respectful in class. So I can't take it personal. I just got to continue to find strategies and work with them to help them be successful. And I just keep it really real with them. So that has helped a little bit this year.
Awesome. So how do you deal with a difficult paraprofessional?
Sometimes it's challenging. It depends your personalities and how well you bond and have a relationship. And some paras don't want that relationship. Sometimes they're just real passive and they want you to dictate to them every move. But they also need to be self-motivating and know to interject and help and discipline and in the education piece of it on their own. They're grown adults. Sometimes especially recently, I've been paired with somebody that doesn't have an educational degree, which doesn't make them less worthy than me, but they don't have the experience and the knowledge, but yet they have all the answers and everything's critiqued and too many opinions have been thrown in, and it makes it very it makes it very challenging to bond with that person and myself. And then be able to work with the kids and continue that. The para has to be able to bond with the students before they're going to get any respect from them or any hard work from them. And unfortunately, this person wasn't capable of doing that this year. So it's made it for a very long, challenging year. Prior to this, I've been able to really, maneuver and have times to meet with them This person isn't as readily available, which they should be. But the past years, I just make it happen, or I'll text them more often or ask them personal questions outside of school, and they're open for that. Unfortunately, this year has not been that way.
Yeah.
So
it's kind of cool to see like the difference between your classroom and the one I was at this past week, because the paraprofessionals are so like involved with the students. It's also different because it's like a direct instruction, self-contained classroom, but they're like always helping the students with work and have a really good relationship. And the students treat them like they're the teacher too. So
yeah,
I think
I've always had that. My
Yeah.
rule in my classroom is any adult is treated with the same respect. We are both teachers. Unfortunately, this year, this particular person has made a divide, and the kids know that he doesn't have authority and he has caused more issues for them than help them. And so it's made it crazy.
Yes. What advice do you have for a first-year special education teacher?
It is okay to make mistakes. It is absolutely, I address that kind of with asking for help. It's okay to go to other people. It is okay to ask to go to trainings. It is okay to know that you are challenged and you may not know what direction to go next. It is okay to ask veteran teachers. It doesn't mean you're weak. I said that already. But you definitely have to be confident in yourself. Even if you're not confident, you need to portray that you're confident, because the kids know whether you are feeling it or you're not. You need to definitely start out stricter and loosen up, because if you loosen up and then become strict, they don't usually respond to that. Being creative and fun and making sure things are engaging, interactive, instead of just lecture. A lot of these kids already dislike education. And so you have to you're almost an entertainer. I mean, you really seriously are. They say it's not your circus, it's not your monkeys.
Yeah.
It is every single day. So you have to just have fun with them as well. But some groups you have to really be strict on those boundaries, because they can't give them an inch, because they'll take 5 miles, and that's what we're experiencing this year. In the past, they could regroup faster. So it's just the dynamics of the group that comes together. So you just gotta roll with the punches.
Yeah. Okay. Great. The next question is, what are your best tips for facilitating a successful IEP meeting?
Building a bond with the parents. The more you communicate with a parent, you have to balance your positive and negative interactions with them, because if they're used to only hearing from negative, comments and negative phone calls and things. For instance, I have a student this year that she's just not willing to bond with me, the mom, because it's always been negative. So it's making it very challenging for me. So we're 3/4 of the way done with the school year, and I finally got an email back saying, thanks for contacting me. And it's been 3/4 of a year, and I've been weekly giving positive updates. And once in a while it has been a negative, but sometimes you got to be able to adjust. Letting the parents have a voice is a huge thing, and talking in everyday language, because when you're going through reports and things, there are going to be a lot of questions. A lot of parents just agree, because they have no clue what's going on. Also making sure that parent knows that if they don't understand or don't agree with something, that they do have a timeline that they can have that clarified and such, and that they communicating with them that they can have an IEP at any time. It is not just once a year. But and anytime you're in I call it the sandwich method. Anytime you're in a meeting, it has to be, you have to start out with a positive, go ahead and address the negatives, or maybe the deficit areas, some of those difficult things, and then always end with a positive.
Yeah, and I got to see that with you by sitting into that first IEP meeting at the beginning of my observations.
Great. Yeah, some of the parents come in already defeated because maybe their child does have a lot of challenges, or is very challenging at home. So you've got to hit them with that positive, and every kid has something positive, no matter how much they drive you crazy.
Yeah, okay. Right. The last question is, what is your proudest moment as a special ed teacher?
I would definitely have to say when you're out in the community and people are yelling your name or running up to you or wanting to hug you, just being able to know that you were that positive person. Just the other day, actually, I ran into somebody from 7 years ago, and they were like, oh my gosh, you were the hardest person. I totally, loved and hated you. And, now I'm like so thankful and I'm like so excited to see you. So those kind of moments are amazing. Like just being able to know you impacted them. Just recently as well, I had a college student come back to me and ask if I would tutor them because I was the only one that was able to get through to them on concepts with math. And I actually took the time to help that child. And so I'm currently tutoring this child.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool.
That's
and
amazing.
She was 6 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's just a really cool thing. My very, very first student was 5 years old that I taught, and he is now 27, and I still see him on a regular. So bonding with that family, I did some, he was severely autistic, and he was an only child, so I did some babysitting over the summer to incorporate him with my children. And he's 27, so he stays with me 1 week every summer, so his parents can go on a vacation.
That's adorable.
Yeah. So it's just super cool to hear,
Yeah.
you know, them thinking about you so many years later.
Yeah, and I could tell that's the reason you're still in it.
Oh, absolutely.
You talked about a lot of negatives, but it seems like that positives outweigh those
Absolutely.
negatives.
I told my kids just yesterday, I love my job. And even though it's so challenging, like we are going to get through this and I'm going to continue to love my job. Like you're not going to knock me down.
That's
so
awesome.
Yeah.
Great.